I am a substitute teacher tonight. It's an honor to be here, and it's great to see. I know there's a lot of you I know, and there's some of you I don't know. But who has seen me before? Raise your hand. All right, I like doing this. Let's be brave. Who has not seen me before? I am the first time. Okay. All right, and just remember, a little of me goes a long way. Okay. All right, awesome. Yes, it's my wife didn't dress me. I found out my wife figured out that I could wear. She told me to wear horizontal striped shirts, and I said, "Honey, I'm a chunky guy." We were taught never to wear horizontal stripes. She goes, "Oh, do it for me," and so I've kept doing it. So I went and bought my own horizontal striped shirt tonight, and I showed up. She's at Awana in Des Plaines, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, is that a new shirt? You bought yourself a new shirt?" Like I did. And my 7-year-old daughter approved. She goes, "Daddy, that has blue. That works for you." Okay. There are over 4,500 distinct religions in the world. You have heard of the main ones. Christianity has over 2.2 billion people. And tonight we're going to look at Christianity with other religions. That's 31% of the world population, according to this belief system. I think on your chart, that's the purple, the pink, and the blue. There you go. The other major religions, Islam, Hindu, Buddhist, Mormonism, and other. And the other is, there's a lot of other. You can see largely the regions are centralized at different geographical areas. We live in the U.S., and the Bridge is we're a Protestant church, so it kind of fits the bill. Again, this doesn't mean that all the churches in the U.S. are the blue, but it's just the majority. If we were all born in India, we probably wouldn't even be having this class. So congratulations. We'd be probably worshiping Krishna or Brahma, or if we were born in some remote tribe in the wilderness, we would worship whatever that tribe worships. So if Christianity is true, and you might say we hit the spiritual lottery by being born in the USA, is it fair that the rest of the world is judged based upon what was taught to them? And even if somebody in India, let's say, wanted to really research and find God, would they need to research through 4,500 different religions? How is that fair? It's kind of like, imagine the first time I met my wife in seminary. And in seminary, it was, oh my goodness, 2001 or 2, somewhere around there. I don't forget when we were married. I don't forget my anniversary. I am dumb, but I'm not stupid. Yeah, so I met her in seminary. She is a hospice chaplain, so I'm a care pastor, and she's kind of a care pastor too. And we didn't have cell phones then, but imagine if we did, and I went to Jen, and her name is Jen, and I said, "Hey, you're pretty beautiful. Can I have your number?" Now, you can imagine that pickup line not working with someone like me, but we can dream. Imagine she pulls out this vanilla folder, and there's 4,000 names in there with 4,000 different numbers and says, "Hey, call me." You would think that girl was cruel. And you're right. She would be in that case. A lot of us today are the same way. We see God as this cruel God who makes us sort through 4,000 different religions. So before we search through 4,000 different religions, because, who has that kind of time? We first need to look at that's a big word, it's a philosophy word, epistemology. How we know something to be true. Many non-theistic worldviews hold several incorrect views of truth. For instance, truth claims. Here we go. Skepticism. You are going to be filling out your blanks as usual tonight. Skepticism claims that truth does not exist, at least in an ultimate sense. They deny the existence of truth altogether. So if you're like, what is that word? Well, we get the word skeptic from that word. Next, we have agnosticism. We have 2 Greek words there, a and gnosis, or gnosos. This idea that says you can't know or without knowledge. The truth is just unknowable. The word agnostic means without knowledge. Agnostics don't know for sure there is a God, so they don't take a hard stance on the topic. They say, we don't know, so let's eat, drink, and be merry. Next, relativism. This asserts that all truth is relative to a person, a situation, or to a culture. So skepticism, agnosticism, relativism. And next, pluralism. You might need to write this one down. Pluralism says all truths are equally valid, even if they contradict each other. You might hear somebody say, I'm just living my truth. You have your truth and I have my truth, and who are you to say that your truth is better than my truth or more true than my truth? That would be pluralism. It's the idea that, well, all regions are kind of right. All religions are basically talking about the same thing, just in different ways, right? Everybody has their own truth. You would also see this if, I'm not pluralistic, Joel, I swear. But you might have said something like this, or maybe heard someone say something like this. You don't know what they're going through. You can't say unless you walk a mile in her shoes. Oh. So are you telling me the whole nature of truth is dependent upon somebody's experience of that truth? You see, what I like to say is that my story may illustrate truth, but my story doesn't get to proclaim what truth is. The basis for truth is not my story. I would pray that my story would illustrate truth, but truth is not dependent upon someone's experience. And if you believe it does, that's pluralism. Have you ever heard of the story of the 6 blind men and an elephant? Well, there were 6 blind men. And the first blind man put out his hand and touched the side of the elephant. How smooth. An elephant is like a wall. The second blind man put out his hand and touched the trunk of the elephant. How round. An elephant is like a snake. The third blind man put out his hand and touched the tusk of the elephant. How sharp. An elephant is like a spear. The fourth blind man put out his hand and touched the leg of the elephant. How tall. The elephant is like a tree. The fifth blind man reached out his hand and touched the ear of the elephant. How wide. An elephant is like a fan. The sixth blind man put out his hand and touched the tail of the elephant. How thin. An elephant is like a rope. An argument ensued, each blind man thinking his own perception of the elephant was the correct one. The Raja, awakened by the commotion, called out from the balcony. The elephant is a big animal, he said. Each man touched only one part. You must put all the parts together to find out what the elephant is truly like. Enlightened by the Raja's wisdom, the blind men reached agreement. Each of us only knows only a part. To find the whole truth, we must put all the parts together. The moral of the story goes something like this. We all have different experiences. Therefore, whenever we find ourselves at odds with others, we should be humble and recognize our limitations of knowledge, our need for other perspectives, and trust that others may grasp truths that we simply do not. It says that we all see things a bit differently, but we're all trying to do the same thing and get to the same place, right? And what's so bad about that? Well, Tim Keller sums it up this way, the contradiction. How could you know that each blind man only sees part of the elephant unless you claim to be able to see the whole elephant? How could you possibly know that no religion can see the whole truth unless you yourself have the superior comprehensive knowledge of spiritual reality that you just claimed that no religion has? Meaning that the person who is telling the story is claiming to see the absolute truth. It's a truth, isn't it? It's impossible to live in this world with no absolute truth, especially when someone says, there's no absolute truth, except for that statement right there, that there's no absolute truth, right? That's kind of convenient. Last that we have here, absolute truth. This asserts that truth is exclusive and absolute. Truth exists today in the realms of our worldviews. Take reality, science, rational thinking. They all attest not just that truth exists, but also that truth is exclusive by definition. If I was to ask you what 2 plus 2 equals, you would say, well done. Oh, that wasn't too confident. 2 plus 2 equals 4. All right, good job. And you would say 4. If you were on the Let's Make a Millionaire, you would say final answer or something like that. Okay, we're not going to talk this out. It's 4, leave me alone. Okay, there's no other answer being possible. There is evidence for absolute truth. Let's have 3 reasons why we know truth exists: human conscience, science, and religion. Oop, went ahead. Our conscience convinces us that there is something wrong with suffering. There's something wrong with starvation and rape and pain and evil. And it makes us aware that love and generosity and compassion and peace, they're all positive things for which we should strive. This is universally true in all cultures and all times. The Bible describes the role of the human conscience in Romans chapter 2. It says, "Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law, since they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts now accusing, now even defending them. This will take place in the day when God will judge men's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares." Science. Science is simply the pursuit of knowledge. Anyone who claims to be a scientist is obsessed with data. We have to collect, we have to measure, we have to process, we have to theorize data. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was a biology student, I was pre-med, and I was pursuing science. And science is all about data, what I can collect, what I can study, what I can measure, all those things. The quest to know more, to understand better. Therefore, all scientific study must be by necessity be founded upon the belief that there are objective realities existing in the world. And these realities can be discovered and proven. Without absolutes, there'd be nothing to study. How could we know that the findings of science are real? In fact, the very laws of science are founded on the existence of absolute truth. And religion. All the religions of the world attempt to give meaning and definition to life. They are born out of mankind's desire for something more than simple existence. Through religion, humans seek God, they hope for the future, forgiveness of sins, peace in the midst of their struggles, and answers to their deepest questions. Religion is really evidence that mankind is more than just a highly evolved animal. It is evidence of a higher purpose and of the existence of a personal and purposeful creator who has put in man the desire to know him. And if there is indeed a creator, then he becomes the standard for absolute truth. And it is his authority that establishes this truth. I like to say it this way. I teach a class here at the Bridge called Master Class Theology. It's also a podcast. And theology can be a really big word. Theologian can even be bigger. But you can all be theologians right now. A theologian takes 2 stances. Point number 1 is this: God exists. Point number 2, I am not God. If you can agree to those 2 points, congratulations, you're now a theologian. If you make point 3, and I go to the Bible now for my direction to find out what God expects of me, you're now a biblical theologian. Congratulations. But yeah, this is the idea here. Truth is truth. And today what our culture has done is says everything can be truth. Humor me for a second. Close your eyes and point to where you think north is. All right, here we go. Where's north? Some of you are pointing up. God bless you. All right, okay, Euclid. All right, we're going to guess behind me. I'm going to guess behind me. Okay. I lived here for 10 years. You would think I lived right where there's a pond right in the side of that parking lot. You'd think I would know north. All right. Now open your eyes. Okay, look throughout the room. Okay, everyone point again. Let's see. Now everyone's going to point this way. All right, there you go. North is north. Truth is truth. The question, and a good question, is what makes something true? How can we determine and sort through all this content, all the claims of the world? There are 3 tests that we use. We use them knowingly or even unknowingly as we use these tests. What's the first test? Logical consistency. Do the claims of the belief system, they must logically cohere to one another and not contradict in any way. The more contradiction that is found in a claim, the less truth we know it to be. So as an example, the end goal of Buddhism is to rid oneself of all desires. Yet, one must have a desire to rid oneself of all desires. you can see where that might butt heads at some point. Whereas in Christianity, if you love yourself, pursue yourself, you're not doing what Jesus said. Christianity is about self-denial. If you're pursuing yourself and all these things, no, if you're being selfish, then that's not following Jesus. Number 2 is empirical adequacy. Is there evidence to support the belief system, whether the evidence is rational, externally evidential, etc.? And you've been going through this class, we've been looking at some evidences and looking at some data points and some ideas to help you with this question. Are there claims outside of the claim that backs up the belief? So, for example, Mormons teach that Jesus visited North America. Okay. Yet there is no proof, archaeological or otherwise, to support such a claim. Just saying. The third is existential relevancy. This is the belief system should address the big questions of life that we're going to describe here below. And the teaching should be accurately reflected in the world in which we live. Yeah. Along the way of getting a biology degree, God grabbed me out of college and threw me into ministry. And I fell in love with philosophy. I've been thinking about some of my old philosophy papers, as one does. And there was a tension in my philosophy. As I studied these old Greek and Roman philosophers, my philosophy professor just grew to dislike my papers. Because my papers all turned into this. Hey, that's great in theory, but does it work in practice? And then I'd have to back it up. And sometimes I would get A's, sometimes I would not get A's, but usually I got some kind of a comment. Really, Bradshaw, this again? Yeah. I wanted to know, does it work? This is something that's really practical. Because theory is great, but we want to see if it works. Is there relevancy? Is the belief or claim actually livable? For instance, if you subscribe to an atheist approach to life, then all we kind of end up being is complicated chunks of atoms that have no soul, meaning, or purpose in and of ourselves. You really can't actually live like that. I mean, you can, but at some point, we want to have purpose, don't we? These three are the test of how we know anything, religion aside, to be true. The above framework, when applied to the topic of religion, will help lead one to a right view of God to answer the big questions of life. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at 4 big questions. We all have these 4 big questions we want to try to answer. It's partly why religions form, to answer these big questions of life. Origin, where do we come from? Meaning, what is the purpose for life? Morality, how should we live? And destiny, where is mankind heading? What happens after we die? Where do we come from? Why are we here? What's right and wrong? What happens after we die? Origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. Origin. Where do we come from? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the big 4 here, and we're going to apply them with the various religions offered, as it were. First, atheism. So where do we come from? How did we get here? Was it just an accident? Why are we here? Well, according to modern atheistic science, around 13.7 billion years ago, everything in the entire universe was condensed. Suddenly, an explosive expansion began, ballooning our universe outwards faster than the speed of light. This all happened within just the first second after the universe began, when the temperature of everything was still insanely hot, about 10 billion degrees Fahrenheit, according to NASA. The cosmos now contained a vast array of fundamental particles such as neutrons, electrons, and protons, all the raw materials that would become the building blocks for everything that exists today. How about humans? How do they come about? Well, evolutionists have a different view of how human beings came into the world, believing that we have evolved from other species, specifically from primates. Throughout time, evolution has adapted the human species into modern-day human beings, making it possible to live in present-day times. The big thing that I always ponder about evolution by natural selection is, as I was studying in my biology degree, I came into the program from a more theistic worldview. In fact, I was the only one at that school that was theist in the biology department. And I kept running up against to two words: random, unguided. Everything has to happen randomly and in an unguided fashion. All the mutations have to be random and unguided. Because if they're guided, if they're not random, that means that there's now a purpose behind what's happening. And then you can just let philosophy take over at that point. At some point, it's going to a design requiring a designer, etc. I ran up against another truth in my biology degree. We all could very easily not just be here at all. That we're here, it's kind of luck of the draw, we're here. We just randomly happen in an unguided fashion, but we could just as easily not be here. That's really what atheistic evolutionary theory leads to. And if you can live with that, well then that's where you stand. Although it's hard to believe, we have now established that it was only 5 or 6 million years ago that we split off from the ancestral lines leading to gorillas and chimpanzees, our closest relatives. Islam. If we were to look at Islam and the origin of where they believe we come from, we can look at the Quran and see in Surah 754, indeed, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then established himself above the throne. He covers the night with the day, chasing it rapidly, and the sun, the moon, and the stars, subjected by his command. Unquestionably, his is the creation and the command. Blessed is Allah, Lord of the worlds. Islam teaches that human beings are a unique life form that was created by Allah in a special way, with unique gifts and abilities unlike any other. A soul and a conscience, knowledge and free will. In short, Muslims do not believe that human beings randomly evolved from apes. The life of human beings began with the creation of two people, a male and a female, named Adam and Hawa, or Eve. The Quran describes how Allah created Adam. We created man from sounding clay, from mud molded into shape. And he began the creation of man from clay and made the progeny from the quintessence of fluid. When's the last time you used the word quintessence? That's Surah 32. And then later it gives the exact detail to how he created. Surah 86, now let man think from what he has created. He is created from a drop emitted proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs. With that in mind, the author of the above passage from the Quran tells us that sperm comes from the area of the body between the backbone and the ribs. Okay. What did God create? According to Islam, Allah says the creation of the heavens and the earth is indeed greater than the creation of mankind, yet most of mankind know not. From Surah 40. Muslims will say Allah created. I did not create jinn and humans, jinn being, some people say angels, some people say demons, except to worship me, Surah 51. He is the one who created death and life in order to test which of you is best in your deeds, Surah 67. Islam would say that we were created to worship and to test us to see which of us is best in our deeds. How about Buddhism? Buddhists believe the beginning of the world and of life is inconceivable since they have neither beginning nor end. Buddhists believe that the world was not created once upon a time, but that the world has been created millions of times every second and will continue to do so by itself and will break away by itself. They believe that creation was a light spirit at one time, but over time they acquired a taste for physical pleasures. And as they consumed it, their bodies became heavier and more like human bodies. They lost their ability to shine and began to acquire differences in their appearance. The length of life decreased. They differentiated into two sexes and became sexually active. Okay? Answering why we're here. Hinduism. A lotus flower grew from Lord Vishnu's navel. When Brahma sitting on it, Brahma separated the flower into three parts: the heavens, the earth, and the sky. Out of loneliness, Brahma split himself into two to create a male and a female. From this male and female, all beings were created. Mormonism. In regard to creation, Joseph Smith taught that all matter is eternal without beginning or end. Therefore, the earth was not created by God, but merely just simply organized from existing elements. In the book of Abraham 3:24, in the Pearl of Great Price, it confirms the Latter-day Saint belief in creation from pre-existing matter. And there stood one among them that was like unto God, and he said unto those who were with him, we will go down, for there is space there, and we will take of these materials, and we will make an earth whereupon these may dwell. Smith also claimed that God was the supervisor of creation, not actually involved, and that Jesus, together with many helpers from the spirit kingdom, acted under direction to organize the existing elements. It is interesting to note that these helpers supposedly included such worthy spirits as Michael, who later became Adam, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Peter, James, John, and of course Joseph Smith, all the noble and great worthy ones of Mormonism. In some Mormon writings, such as the Book of Moses, it also teaches that the earth was not the first of God's creations. Apparently, he is supposed to have organized many worlds similarly, all for the purpose of inhabitation by his many spirit children. When it comes to the creation of man and women, they would follow the same account essentially as Christianity. So what about Christianity? Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God then spends a few days working. Hey, look at that. Day 1, he makes the sky and the atmosphere. Day 2, dry land and all the plant life. Day 3, the stars and heavenly bodies, including the sun and the moon. Day 4, birds and water creatures. Day 5, and all the land animals and man. Day 6, mankind is special above all the other creatures because he bears the image of God and has responsibility to steward the earth. All of creation was completed in 6 days, in all of its vast array and wondrous beauty. God announced that his creation was very good. Genesis 2 sees the ending of God's creative work and gives a more detailed account of the creation of man. The seventh day is marked by God's resting. Genesis 2 takes a closer look at the creation of man. God formed the man from the dust of the earth. Again, God created everything else with a breath. Let there be. God simply spoke into existence. But human beings, God got his hands dirty, didn't he? Are we unique and special in God's eyes? He literally formed us. The rest of creation, stars and gorillas and all those things, he spoke. But for us, he formed. Yeah, there's something about that. The fact that God chose to form this way, now to breathe life into him, to this man, such great care and process. God placed the first man, Adam, in a special place, the Garden of Eden. Eden was beautiful and full. Adam had almost everything he needed, including food and productive work. However, God was not done with man. God helped Adam to see his need for a mate by having him review all the other creatures and naming them. By the way, Jordan, that was very kind of you, saying that I'm smart, but I believe Adam was probably the smartest guy who ever existed, given biologically what he had to do that day. And we've all been progressively getting a little bit stupider, even with saying the word stupider. Yeah. At the end of the naming process, Adam understood what he lacked. God caused Adam to sleep and then formed Eve with as much care as he had formed Adam and Eve. And Eve was made from Adam's rib. When God brought Eve to Adam, the man immediately understood she was special. She was his counterpart, his complement, the flesh of his flesh. God created humans to have a relationship with him. So how about that next big question? Why are we here? What's the purpose? Well, we go back to atheism. Challenging the assumption of a world with religion, life's meaning and purpose becomes impossible because many atheists do and have lived meaningful and purposeful lives, but there's just, what do we do with human morality? No belief in the afterlife. There's just, science sometimes struggles in answering the why questions. It does really good answering the what questions and sometimes the how questions, but the why questions, the ultimate questions, science is not equipped to handle those questions. Science is equipped to measure and to process. Indeed, atheists could credibly claim that life is more meaningful for them than it is for many religious people who simply see this world as a kind of preparation for the next. Pardon me. When heaven is the ultimate destination, life on earth is not really valuable in itself. The atheist, as a naturalist, unequivocally accepts human mortality with no belief in afterlife or reincarnation. At some point, I guess we push up daisies, we become worm food, that's really it. There's nothing after death, so let's just live. Islam. And I did not create the jinns nor human beings with any other purpose except for them to submit themselves to whatever tasks I commanded them to do. The 5 pillars of Islam. You probably learned this in school, a profession of faith. The belief that there is no God but God. So this is, according to Islam, why you exist. These 5 pillars. There is no God but God, Islam claims, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. It is all central to Islam. Prayer. Muslims pray facing Mecca 5 times a day at dawn, noon, mid-afternoon, sunset, and after dark. Alms, fasting, and pilgrimage. And what is it that Allah commanded the world to do? To do good deeds, to be good parents, to be a good wife, be a good husband, eat healthy food, stay away from haram food. Don't say bad things, and praise God. Pray, pursue knowledge, do hard work, obtain halal wealth, help your neighbors, orphans, the needy, etc. These are all acts of worship and what Allah has called his people to do. Therein lies your purpose, according to Islam. Buddhism, why are we here? Well, Buddha gave the 4 noble truths. To live is to suffer. Suffering is caused by attachment or desire. Some of this kind of sounds like the Jedi code from Star Wars a bit. You can eliminate suffering by eliminating all attachments. This is achieved by following the 8-fold path. According to the Buddha, the goal of ridding yourself of attachment can be obtained only through a rigorous life of concentrated effort in following the noble 8-fold path, which is the right view, the right intention, the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, proper meditation, and the right concentration. Hinduism. Got a fun word, moksha. Moksha is the ultimate aim for life, in life for Hindus. It means to be saved. When a Hindu achieves moksha, they break free from the cycle of samsara. Hindus claim to end the cycle of samsara through gaining good karma. We've all heard of that word, I'm sure. Good karma, which means doing good deeds and actions. Mormonism. The Lord's plan of salvation teaches that we live before we were born onto the earth as spirit children of our Father in heaven. Now, sometimes this creeps into Christianity. If you believe that you existed in heaven before you came to earth as some kind of a spirit creature, that's what this is saying here. I'm just saying. As opposed to you being fearfully and wonderfully made by God in your mother's womb. The purpose of life on earth, according to Mormonism, is to exercise our freedom of choice, to choose good and to choose Christ. We existed for eternities before we came to earth, and we will exist forever after death. Earth life is a short test that determines our future status. I once had a friend describe it to me this way: as God once was, someday I shall be. Let that sink in for a second. As God once was, someday I shall be. Christianity. In the book of Genesis, we find a clue to the meaning of life in that God created mankind in his image. Genesis 1. We were specially made by God, and that gives us intrinsic value. Nothing can give us greater value. We're made to reflect his image. We have a purpose to glorify God. Nothing can give us greater satisfaction. God made man a social creature. Genesis 2. God gave man work. Genesis 2. God had fellowship with man. Genesis 3. God gave man dominion over the earth. Genesis 1. These facts have significance related to the meaning of life. God intended mankind to have fulfillment in life, but our condition, especially regarding our fellowship with God, all of this was adversely reflected by the fall into sin. and the resulting curse upon the earth. We see that in Genesis 3. Christianity actually gives us another question that we don't detail right now, is what is our problem? And how do we get it solved? If you share the gospel with somebody, that's how you share the gospel. There's bad news and there's good news. The real meaning of life, both now and in eternity, was found in the restoration of our relationship with God. This restoration is only possible through God's Son, Jesus, who reconciles us to God. Heaven and eternal life are the gift of God when we trust in Jesus as our Savior. Once salvation is received by grace through faith, Christ makes us, and we begin the journey of growing closer to Him and learning to rely on Him. God wanted a relationship with you. How about morality? What's right and wrong? The atheist would claim that we as humans have the right to say what's wrong and what's right. Well, why is that in the 20th century we shed more blood than the 19th centuries before? Think about World War II. Hitler had his view on morality and he killed 6 million people. But in those warehouses that remained, Soviet soldiers found personal belongings of the victims. Among these personal items were hundreds of thousands of men's suits, more than 800,000 women's garments, and more than 14,000 pounds of human hair. On the wall at the prison camp, it is said Hitler wrote this quote, "I want to raise a generation of young people devoid of conscience, imperious, relentless, and cruel." Let me tell you, my atheist friend, if no morality was the right answer, the 20th century was your scientific experiment, and in the 20th century we saw more death than we have in centuries 1 to 19. Just saying, a lack of morality ends in death and purposeless existence. Islam. It believes Allah said by the way of the description of Prophet Muhammad, He orders them with that which is good and forbids them that which is bad. He makes allowed for them that which is clean and good and forbids them which is unclean and detestable. Surah 7. Buddhism. It emphasizes self-discipline, especially for those who have chosen the life of like a monk or a nun. It emphasizes generosity, nonviolence, and compassion. These are obviously good things. Hinduism. In this world, every cause must have an effect. We are responsible for the results of our actions. You can see that playing out in their system of samsara and karma. What's right and wrong according to Mormonism? Well, it's similar to what Christians believe. Christianity. Every human being is created in the image of God. Part of what that means, to be created in God's image, is we have a conscience that instinctively recognizes good and evil and tells right from wrong. The Holy Spirit works. As we study God's Word, we are told that His Word begins to work on us. Every civilized culture in the world has adopted similar standards for its people, based upon the inherent understanding of good and evil. Murder, theft, deceit are universally understood to be wrong. God has put the moral law in our hearts, and we feel these things when things go off. Destiny. What happens after we die? Well, atheism. Atheists believe there is no God, and so there's no life after death, and that death is just the cessation of the existence of the individual. Okay? Islam. Muslims believe they get to go to paradise. Ooh, hello. Thank you. Muslims believe they get to go to paradise by living religiously, asking Allah for forgiveness and showing good actions in their life. These good actions will be rewarded on the last day. Surah 7 says, "And the measuring out on that day will be just. Then as for him whose measure of good deeds is heavy, those are they who shall be successful. As for him whose measure is light, those who they have made their souls suffer loss because they disbelieved in our communications." It almost pictures life as a great cosmic scale. Are my good deeds going to outweigh my bad? Therefore, obeying the rules set by Allah, according to Islam, is of ultimate importance. Muslims believe there are 7 levels of heaven. Each heaven is made of a different material, and a different prophet is in each one. The first heaven is made of silver. That's where Adam and Eve are. Abraham lives in the 7th heaven. a place made of divine light. Hell is described as a place of fire and torment. Muslims believe they will be sent to hell if they reject the teachings of the Quran or take no responsibility for their actions. Either of these would mean that they had failed Allah's test. Buddhism. Buddhism teaches that there is a cycle of death and rebirth called samsara. Through karma and eventual enlightenment, Buddhists hope to escape samsara and achieve nirvana. Yeah, I know, not the grunge band. Okay, here we go. An end to suffering. Buddhism. That sounds pretty inclusive, though, doesn't it? Well, according to Buddhism, this is the only path. There is none other for the purification of insight. Walking upon this path, you will make an end of suffering. This is from the Buddhist holy writings, oddly enough, called the Way. Hinduism. Most Hindus believe that humans are in a cycle of death and rebirth called samsara. When a person dies, their atman or soul is reborn in a different body. Some believe rebirth happens directly at death. Others believe that an atman may exist in other realms. This is from Krishna, the Hindu force of the universe, speaking from their holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. Those who are without faith in my teaching cannot attain Krishna or the enlightenment. I permeate all the universe in my unmanifest form. All beings exist within me. If you do not accept this view, then you do not exist. You will never achieve Hindu salvation. Not only is the path different, but the destination different, in that the Hindus don't believe in heaven, but reincarnation. You would come back as a person of nobility, or maybe even a rat, or something in between. You not just have different paths, but different destinations. You say those are both right, both true? Well, hold on. Am I going to go to heaven, or am I going to come back to life as someone else? Reincarnation sounds kind of cool for a moment, but just remember, you're still coming back here. Womp womp. Really? To the same cycle of suffering? Yeah. I get to be reincarnated, but you're still back here again. Now you're something else. Mormonism. Members believe that after resurrection and judgment, many will meet the requirements to achieve exaltation on the highest level. The celestial kingdom, wherein they will eternally live in God's presence, continue as families, become gods, remember, as God once was, someday, all right. Create worlds, okay, you see that? And have spirit children over which they will govern. Those in spirit prison, I guess we don't want to be in spirit prison. Those in spirit prison who do not accept the gospel will eventually be resurrected and will inherit not celestial glory, but telestial glory. This state will not be as wonderful as the celestial kingdom, it's just not going to be as wonderful. Neither our Father in heaven nor Jesus will visit those who live here. Angels will visit these people, and they will have the influence of the Holy Ghost. The people who live in the telestial kingdom are those who do not accept the gospel or the testimony of Jesus, either on earth or in the spirit world. They will suffer for their own sins in a spirit prison until after the millennium. It almost sounds like purgatory, a time of purging, where my evil can be purged away. It almost sounds like that, right? Okay. While on this earth, they might have been liars, thieves, murderers, or false prophets, adulterers, and those who ridicule sacred things. These were the people who accepted the beliefs of the world rather than the teachings of Jesus. Those who reach the terrestrial kingdom, meanwhile, will not live with God in heaven. They will not have all that he has. Those who go to the terrestrial kingdom will be honorable people. Some of them will be members of the church. Others will not. Some of those did accept Jesus, but some did not. The people who live here will not be part of an eternal family, but will live separately without families. The grandest destination is the celestial kingdom in Mormonism, where exaltation or eternal life takes place. A lifetime of good works is required. Those in this kingdom will dwell forever in the presence of God the Father and his Son, Jesus Christ. This should be your goal, to inherit celestial glory and help others receive that great blessing as well. Those not qualifying for the celestial kingdom will have regret and eternal punishment, torment, hell. Christianity. In 1 Corinthians 2, the things that God prepared for those who love him are revealed to us by the Spirit. For us, the moment we die, we are going to be in the presence of our Lord and Savior. Heaven, Our eternal home is a real place where we will reside in real physical bodies and where we will experience everlasting joys, rewards, and treasures. In heaven it says, and God will wipe away tears from their eyes. That means Eric Clapton got it wrong. There will be at least one tear in heaven. Just saying. And there should be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things have passed away. John 14, 1-3. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to be there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you may be where I am. I have to tell you, my friends, my wife and I have lost 4 of our 6 children. All babies. I like to picture my heavenly welcoming party awaiting me. And though none of my 4 children ever spoke, I like to imagine their first words to me are, "Hi, Daddy. Here's Jesus." Picture your favorite place on earth. Now imagine that place completely free from any of the unpleasantries that make you feel sad, uncomfortable, or anxious. We're going to be with our Christian family and friends, learning and growing, and learning and meeting this very Savior. Like I tell you, I've said before to many people, I'm going to spend the first eon of heaven on my face and saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," until Jesus says, "Get up, pal. Thank you, thank you, thank you." All religions have exclusive beliefs. Christianity is absolutely exclusive. But as we saw here today, every world religion is also exclusive. So to say they're all right out of love, "Oh, you're being very generous. Oh, yes, everyone's right. You know what? You're right. I'm right. Let's just all agree. Come on, we're trying to have Thanksgiving dinner. What's going on here?" Okay, maybe Thanksgiving dinner is not the right time to bring out politics or bring out faith. But at some point you're saying, "Oh, can't we just all just be right?" And okay, well, they can all be wrong, but they can't all be right. You catch that? All the religions can be wrong, but they can't all be right, because they all claim exclusivity, and so does Christianity. But the difference is Jesus was hung on a cross with his arms wide open, saying, "Whoever believes in him shall perish, and not perish, but have eternal life." Christianity is exclusive, but it's also the most inclusive. Think of it this way. The gospel is inclusive. All may come. It is exclusive. You may only come through Jesus. You catch that? John 14, 1-6. John 14, 6, Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Notice that was a "the," not an "a." I am the way. No one comes to the Father except through me. So if that is true, then Muhammad is false. If that is true, then Buddha is false. If that is true, then Krishna is false. The Bhagavad Gita is now false. If that is true, Joseph Smith is now false. You see where I'm going with this? Now, according to the logic I just gave you, Jesus could also be wrong. But if he's right, then that exclusivity trumps everything else. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Matthew 7. I'm going to close with an illustration. I got just a few minutes to do so. I have 2 very generous in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, very generous people. Because of them, I have set foot on 5 of the 7 continents of the world. They are very generous people who cash in all their timeshare points and take us on cruises. And I was the +1. Well, one year they were calling me, Joel, make sure, ask your bosses at this bridge church you go to. They didn't know the bridge community. This bridge church. See if you can get time off. We're going to take you on a special cruise. was a Holy Land cruise. Oh, it's like, Joel, you're a pastor. They're twisting my arm on this. One of the stops on the Holy Land cruise was Egypt. Okay, well, that fits. If Egypt's not in the Bible, then the Old Testament doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay. Out of Egypt I called my son. Later applied to Jesus. All right. My mother-in-law and father-in-law had been to Egypt so many times. They would go annually. They knew all the neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff. So they had a special request. Here was a special request. When we got to Cairo, they requested from the cruise company, could we leave the cruise for a day and a half? Some of you are very type A individuals. You now might be freaking out with the planning. Oh no. They said, sure. You just got to get back to the port and get on that cruise ship. If you don't make it back in time, you are now responsible for finding your own way to the next port of call to get on the cruise ship again. But you can go visit Egypt on your own. I was kind of terrified. But we did. My wife is calming me down. My wife was also great with child in the hot Egyptian heat. So I was, and right around this time, there was a lot politically going on in that corner of the world. It seemed like every place we went on that journey, there was rockets firing as soon as we left. It was crazy. We're in Cairo. All right. We saw the Nile. We took a Nile cruise. We saw, all these fun things. My in-laws were just having the greatest time showing us the sights. My wife lived in a summer in Egypt. She was like, okay, this is great. Let me show you these things. And all of a sudden, it all works out if we make it to get on the train, to now take the train all the way to the ocean, the Mediterranean at this point, to get on the ship. It's all going to work out. We even got to buy our tickets from the concierge at the hotel. It was going to be great. It was going to be great. My wife spoke just enough conversational Arabic to talk to the cab driver to get us to the train station. The problem was we looked at our tickets, everything written in Arabic. We get inside the train station. Everything is in Arabic. I know there's Arabic numerals we could see, but everything oh my goodness. And there were all these gates. I'm like, okay, one of these gates is going to lead to the right place. But all the rest are not going to lead to the right place. And if we don't get the right train, we're not going to make the cruise ship. And now we're going to have to try to find our way to the next port of call. And I'm not looking forward to that. So we find some young man. Nice guy. At least we thought so. We mustered up whatever conversational Arabic we could say. We showed him our ticket. He got really excited. He said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And he points right across the room. We looked at our ticket, looked at the sign he pointed us to, and we saw a disconnect. Doesn't seem right. No. But this is our only help. So we started gathering our bags and making our way. All of a sudden, a very nice older man. We are to this day very grateful for that man. I don't know his name. He spoke even less English. He would hold out his hand. He's gesturing to give him our tickets. And he looks at the ticket, and he looks at the sign that the young man pointed us to. He looks at the young man. He does what I assume was cussing that young man out in very, very rapid Egyptian Arabic. The young man hung his head in shame and scooted off. The old man began to shake his fist with our ticket in hand, and he says, no, first man lie. You go here. Come to find out, this train station was for commuter traffic. And I'm about as white as they come. And my wife was great with child, or at least great enough. And I was freaking out, not knowing where to go. You see, all those gates in that train station had a train. And all those trains were going to lead someone somewhere. And every gate had a person buying a ticket to get on that train because they want to go where that train was leading. But the problem is, we needed one train and only one train. And when we tried to solve our matter on ourselves, we failed. We needed someone to come along beside us and say, no, this is the way. This is where you go. Don't believe the other person. And he was right. We took the ricketiest commuter train across the sweltering Egypt sun. We finally got to the right place just in time to get on the cruise ship, and they got us on, and we got to go, and all was well. But we couldn't take any train. We could only take one. Only one train had that destination, the destination we required, the destination that was purchased for us and led us where we needed to go. So when you ponder the religions of the world, when you ponder the great truth claims, the why we're here, the why life matters, where we're going to go, you've got to figure out how those questions are answered in your soul and which makes the most sense. When I hear Jesus say that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through him, I lived it that day on that train track. Thanks to the kindness of an old fellow. We made it where we needed to go. And that's your decision too, my friends, as you ponder the many paths before you with the religions of the world, as they answer the key questions of life. I'm Joel. Thanks for letting me share.